You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy J. Ludis, and today we have another great guest for you, a fellow speaker who has taken audiences by storm, not just with her inspiring keynotes, but with her humor as well. She is a former comedian turned coach and speaker, as well as a best-selling author with her book, Revolutionary Woman. I'm energized to talk with her today, but everyone, I'm happy to bring you Shereen Thor. Shereen, welcome to the show, and I'm so grateful to have you here.
Billy G, I couldn't be happier. And I got to be honest, you were giving me like Ben Affleck in what are the movies he's famous for with Matt Damon, where he's like in Jersey? Like you were giving me like East Coast vibes right there. I'm into it.
So, I mean, I am from Boston, so it makes sense if that's the vibe you're getting.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
No, that's awesome. But I appreciate having you here. And, like I said, we're speakers in the game for sure, but you bring so much to the table. But I love how you bring it to the table because you were a comedian first. But before we even dive into that, tell us, how did you even get to the stages? How did you get to the comedy stage? Like, where does your story start for that matter?
Well, it starts with me being like a miserable cubicle monkey who graduated from college and was unhappy in her job. So I don't know, I just kind of started dreaming about like, what else could I do? I hate this job. Life is boring after college. What am I going to do? And I had this friend who I sort of watched on MySpace, aging myself. It's
right,
fine.
there you go.
His name is Brian Mood. He's now a radio host in Atlanta. Good guy. But I watched him begin his comedy career. Like I would watch him on MySpace and just kind of be envious. I'm not a person who experiences jealousy very often. So when I felt jealousy, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Why am I just hating on my friend right now? So yeah, I ended up going to this personal growth seminar that a friend of mine nagged me to go to because she could tell how miserable I was at this first job. And they had us set a 90-day goal. And my 90-day goal was I'm going to do comedy 3 times in 90 days. And I'm going to have 5 minutes of material by the end of this 90 days. So yeah, I just kind of got the party started. I think this is why I became a coach and why I'm so obsessed with like what we do as speakers, right? Like it was a seminar and a speaker who kind of initially inspired me to really step out of the box and change my life and stop living like a miserable cubicle monkey zombie drone and actually like be myself. So yeah, that changed my whole life. And I ended up just because of the goal, because of the accountability, because of the potential to look like a dum-dum if I didn't like do the thing that I said I was going to do. I found a guy in Huntington Beach. At the time, I lived in Southern California. That's where I grew up and was, lived there until I was like almost 40. And now I'm a Midwestern. So, but yeah, at the time I was in Huntington Beach, there was a guy named Bill Word who ran a comedy club called Martini Blues. And he would like kind of help women get on stage. So I was like, all right, I'm going to sign up for this open mic. I'm going to do the damn thing. And I did. That's how it started.
Yeah. Well, now I got to ask you, because I love comedians and that's like my go-to every night. What was that first joke that either hit or what was that first joke that might have bombed?
I mean, Billy, listen, I'm about to turn 43 this month. It was like almost 20 years ago. I can't remember. I mean, it was 5 minutes of shenanigans. I don't remember the exact jokes, but I do remember I got up there. I started telling whatever jokes I had planned and sort of was rambling. I do remember like sharing some unexpected, overly personal information that I wasn't planning on sharing. So I was like, oh, oops. We're just going to walk it back. And then as soon as it started, it was over and I was literally never the same. It like changed my life 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the coolest thing too. When you set a goal, you hold yourself accountable for it. As you mentioned, the 90-day rule. And it's like, who am I if I don't do this? And you stepped into it. The second you stepped on that stage for that first comedy show, you're a whole different person. And from that, you step into your own for that matter. So to see that you've done that and you've now carried that onto the speaking stages, how did that transfer happen? Because when we first connected, that was the first thing that lit up to me, like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. This is so cool.
You're so sweet. Yeah, it was a weird transition, actually. I think in a lot of ways I was confused. Like, what? I thought comedy was like all I ever wanted in this lifetime. What am I doing? But I will say, so I'm an immigrant kid. I was born and raised in America by Egyptian parents.
Wow.
And they were very much like, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, and that's it. Like that, those were the options, right? So I was like, oh shoot, like I don't really want to do those things, but I don't want to be like shunned by my family. So, when I went to college, I was like, let me just major in communications instead of engineering because I don't want to hate my studies, but I also don't want to like make my parents afraid of being like a broke and starving artist. So did that. And then my first job when I was super miserable, I ended up like 3 months in getting very rudely sexually harassed. Nobody touched me or anything, but like a guy came and basically told me like, you better lose your attitude or I'm going to bend you over this desk and spank you. So I was like very like disrespected in the early on career days. So by the time I was going to this seminar, I was fairly miserable as like a not even 25-year-old young professional, just kind of like, one, I was treated poorly in this job. 2, I got my immigrant kid programming telling me to stay because I have no resume. 3, my whole life had been made up of choices where I had been deferring what I really wanted to the side, right? To please my parents, right? To get approval, right? To make everyone else happy. And so I think it was almost kind of like coming to a head at the point in which I went to that seminar. So I think not only was it the seminar that was incredibly powerful and that environment and the speaker and all those things, but I think I was like at this like really gnarly, almost like quarter life crisis point in my life where I probably needed this desperately, but didn't really even know, right? Didn't know on my own how to like break out of these patterns I had. So when I started doing comedy, I literally, it's like the first time in my, let's call it 25 years of living that I'm like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm going to do what I want. It was like a big deal, like psychologically for my, at that time, limiting beliefs or limiting behavioral patterns or what I did or didn't allow myself to do or be based on the seeking approval. It was like a major disrupt. And so comedy was the disrupt and the transition happens. So to your question, forgive me that I gave you like an hour of context, but to get to the actual answer is like, I think comedy was the disruption I needed from people-pleasing patterns and like complacence and compliance and just kind of this like low-level energy to I'm being my authentic self. Like I'm actually who I am. I'm going to hold a mic. I'm going to say some things. I'm going to gain confidence. I'm going to get on stages. I'm going to meet new people. It was like a whole adventure for like 2 straight years. And at the same time I was doing comedy, I was also kind of continuing in the coaching stuff, like in tandem. So 2 years of doing comedy, got on stages everywhere, Hollywood Improv, the Comedy Store in Hollywood, everywhere I could go. Honestly, I'm in Seattle, Boston. I did it in Boston too. Yeah. So I went up everywhere they would take me. And then at the same time, I kind of like went to their next seminar that they offered in that personal growth company. And then they had a 90-day coaching program where I was coached. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this totally changed my life. Let me volunteer as a coach. So this is kind of where comedy was the big disrupt, but coaching was like the thing that transformed me. It was like, whoa, like having this safe space of having a coach be like, well, what do you want? And like, I have actually no opinions about it. Like you get to actually just like be yourself. I was like, what is this? It was like a totally new experience. So I got to sort of like take off the mask and arise as my true, authentic, unique self. And from there, honestly, it like gave me so many things back. It gave me like energy. It very much reversed like whatever depression I had kind of developed in my, I'm so unhappy at this job. And that kind of an energy, it just like reversed all of that. I just felt like, whoa, like I'm getting my energy back. I'm feeling joyful. I'm feeling generous. I'm feeling enthusiastic, all these things that I had not felt in a while.
Yeah.
So I just was like, dude, I'm hooked. Like, I just want to drink this Kool-Aid. I just want to pass out this Kool-Aid. Like there's literally nothing better than this Kool-Aid. And then I've been coaching for 20 years now, so it's been a long time. About 4 years ago, I wrote my book to empower women to kind of have that same transformation that I'm talking about right now, like be your actual self, whatever that looks like. And then that really kicked off the speaking career because I did a TEDx talk in 2023 and then another one in 2024. And along the way, people started going like, oh, you speak? Oh, you have a book? Great. Like, so it was like comedy for 2 years, coaching for 16, author, speaker,
right?
Yeah, that's kind of how it all went.
See, that's incredible to me because as you just described, as you started taking steps for yourself, that's when the doors started to open. Whether it is comedy led to coaching, which led to the author, which led to the stages, you kept
Mhm.
following yourself. And I
Yeah.
think, if we connect that to the viewers and listeners right now, that's something a lot of people struggle to do. As you mentioned, you were following, yes, limiting beliefs that might have been put on you or whatever, like, hey, you have to go follow these 4 positions, whatever they might be in the world.
Right.
Right. But when we're pursuing something that we truly aren't connected to,
Yeah.
we then start to feel miserable, as you described. We start to have
100%.
some aspect of depression or stress or worry. So it takes that confident step to realize I'm going to do this. And you took that step for yourself when you signed up for that seminar. I think
Yeah.
that's something is like you're knocking on the door of it, but people listening right now, something as simple as going to a seminar could open your mind up to the point where, like, okay, I do want to do this. Let me follow myself. But
Yeah.
that's when the joy starts to come in. As you just mentioned, you start to see joy start to come out. You start to see, hey, this Kool-Aid, let me pass
Yeah.
out this Kool-Aid. That's joy. That's fun. And now
Yeah.
people get to receive something from you and they're like, oh my gosh, we have to have Shereen here again, or we have to
Yeah.
have Shereen work with so-and-so because you bring such a light to the table, because you found your light so long ago.
That's true. Yeah.
It's incredible, Shereen. It really is.
Mm.
Now let's connect the dots even more so for people right now. So the comedy, the speaking aspect, the author, when you get brought in on a stage or you get brought in to coach an individual, what do you tend to find pops up most? Like, why are people coming to Shereen for coaching? We'll start with that matter.
Hmm. I think in a lot of ways, there's usually a desire for authenticity for sure. So that's like
Okay.
number one. And then I think from that authenticity comes like a natural confidence that bubbles up. So I think what most people want from me is like, please give me permission that it's okay for me to be myself so that I can
Right.
show up more fully in my skin and develop the confidence, the executive presence, the whatever, like answer whatever call or dream or purpose I want. I think it's literally a reflection of my life. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
they see what I've created, they see how I live, they see how I maybe feel in my life, and they're like,
right.
oh, what's that like? I kind of want a
Yeah.
little bit of that, you know?
Right. For sure. That's something I see in my own coaching clients too, where we're always looking for someone else's permission for us to be ourselves. And that
So true.
probably stems from growing up. We're looking for permission from a parent, a teacher, or coach to, like, hey, is it okay if I do this? But then we think we'd have to ask someone to be who we want to be. So
Yeah.
when you get that question and someone's like they might not verbally say it, but they're looking for permission, how
Yeah.
do you start to describe that to a coaching client?
That's a good question. I think in a lot of ways, usually it's presented as like insecurity, and I usually just question it. Like,
Mm,
oh, that's interesting. So, what makes you feel that way, or what's the thought behind that? So that I can get into their psyche and
yeah.
understand like
Right.
what thought is creating the feeling of I don't
Mm,
get to be who I actually am, or it's not safe to be my full self. And then once I learn that, we just
yep.
start to like play around with it. We start to like
Exactly.
Tetris of the mind, you know,
Yep.
where I'm like, okay, well, what would it be like if you tried on this thought?
Mm,
Who's someone that you see in the world who's just like super free and they might be like Oprah? And I'm like, okay, great. Like, how would you handle this work situation if you were Oprah? And then they'll just
yeah.
like come up with this different idea because like they're not in their own sort of
Yep.
normal box, you know? So yeah, I just think the mind is so powerful. You know, if we put it in a box, it'll stay there. If we give
Yeah.
it room to expand, it will. And so I think when a client is working with someone like you or someone like me,
Mhm.
they're giving themselves permission even without a conversation, just in like the transaction of like I'm
Yeah.
hiring a coach. They are beginning to expand. They are
Yes.
beginning to get permission to really like get whatever they really want, right? Like maybe they're
Sure.
hiring Billy because they want to become a speaker. Like
Mhm.
they might not physically be out in the world speaking yet, but their consciousness is already expanding to like it's possible, right?
It's
There's
true.
permission there. There's a green light I'm giving myself of like I want to go there. And so yeah,
Yeah.
kind of just all
It's true.
unfolds. I'm sure you know with your
Oh,
clients.
100%. I completely agree to everything you just said. And, for listeners and viewers right now, that's something that does pop up almost every single session with a coaching client, in the sense of they're trying to step out of their own mind, because the mind is extremely powerful. It's incredible learning about, but it's incredible teaching about it just as much. But if we do put it in a box, you're only going to see those walls of the box. You're not going to be
Oh
able
my
to see,
gosh.
like, oh my goodness, there's more outside. There's
Yeah.
more out here. I even had someone come in for a strategy session early this week, and they fill out a survey before they hop into the session. And I'm reading through the answers, and it's essentially saying, I want to be something new. I want to be this. I don't want to think like this anymore. I don't want to do this. And it's all great to see that information, but all of that starts with I. Like, all right, well, are you saying that to yourself? What makes you think you have to think that way? And
Yeah.
that's why I love being a coach and stepping into the mind of an individual, because as you described it, you step into someone's psyche, and to be able to see how someone else sees and then be like, it doesn't match our viewpoint of the world. It
Right.
doesn't match the knowledge we have. And like, all right. But then I always say this to my coaching clients where like it could be a coaching session where I'm helping them take action, or it could be in some forms of therapy session where they're just venting. And I'll just sit there and listen. And they'll give me all of the answers they could ever need. And I'll
Amazing.
just point them and nudge them back at their own answers. Like, yeah, you just said X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
but you're looking at A, B, and C. So if we adjust it here, you're able to like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're looking at it from one perspective in that
Totally.
box. So I completely agree
So
with you,
cool.
Shereen, on that. That's awesome. Now, if we transfer that idea over to the stages, if you get brought into an organization or a company or maybe a school, whoever you might work
Mhm.
or speak with for that matter, what do they tend to bring you in for? Is it to help
Hmm.
their employees or their audiences with these concepts of finding that confidence in their jobs or teams,
Mhm.
whatever it is, or is it something else?
I mean, my signature keynote speech is sort of taking my own little transformation and then adding like a teaching point, a data
Nice.
point, a coaching question. And so, honestly, when people hire me, and it's interesting because I think I had an idea of what I would get hired for at first.
Mm,
But when I really started getting into the game, I was like, wow, people are hiring me that like I never would have even thought of,
mm,
like a room full of doctors, right? People
yep,
who like live in their mind.
mm,
My whole talk is like, let me help you get out of here in your head and go straight to your heart and your intuition and what
yeah,
you know to be true, not because it's rational or logical, but because it's just truth in your soul. And I'm like, I just never would have expected to be like, hey, doctor, hey, I know my mom wanted me to be a doctor, but let me take it from this angle
right.
and help doctors get out of their head and into their heart.
Yep.
I've been hired by a room full of tech people. I've been hired by a room full of scholars and people who
Mm,
work in like publication and books and all the things. Yeah, I find audiences that live in their heads
yep.
tend to hire me as like a closing keynote speaker
Mm,
because I'm just like all heart and soul, baby. I'm like,
yeah.
let's go. Let's get you out of here. Let's get you into here. And really, and through the keynote speech, I'm asking questions. Like I'm actually perfectly cool with an awkward silence in my speech.
Yeah. Right.
So like one of my number one, like my first point I make in my speech is I tell the story of the first time I ever did stand up, how scary it was, right? I say we think bravery is the absence of fear, but really it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Mm,
And then I talk about how I was never the same after doing it. And I didn't know it at the time, but after coaching for 20 years, I now know, there's a woman named Bronnie Ware, who's a hospice nurse. She wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The number one regret of the dying is
mm,
I wish I would have had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the one others expected of me. So,
wow.
like, at the time when I was doing comedy, I was like, this is really frivolous. This is sort of silly. I'm going to make a fool of myself. It's not going to make me any money. Like, this is dumb, right? Those were
Mm,
all my head was telling me that. But my heart just kind of wanted it, like without, like, it
yeah.
was totally, and that was actually my first TEDx talk was the intelligence of being irrational with this idea of like, not everything needs to make sense. Sometimes you're
Yep.
sort of guided. I saw one of your things on YouTube was like about faith, or maybe it was on Instagram. I just saw something about like faith is like action. And I'm like, that's
Mm,
it. Like, you just got to have faith that when your heart is like nudging you for something,
mm,
that there's some divine reason for it. And you just don't question it. Just go, baby. Just
yeah.
go.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love how you bring concepts of your own transformation to individuals. And that's what it's all about. And it brings me back to the point I said earlier about you, where you now walk in this joy, you walk in this light, and you now give that out to others. In the sense of that, when you bring your own transformation to stages, you're essentially have become a force to change other people. It's not
Let's
just the
go.
coaching, not just the speaking, it's literally you yourself walk in
Mm.
that. So,
Hmm.
as you said, whether it's doctors, scholars, whoever it is under the sun,
Yeah.
and they're so set in this is my life, this is what it looks like, I have to only be here.
Yep.
It takes an outside force to be something
Right.
completely different and be like, hey, I get it, that's your profession, but it's not you. And I think
Right.
that comes back to the old statement of
Yeah.
we are not our jobs, and sometimes when
Yeah.
you ask someone, oh hey, like who are you? Oh, I'm a doctor. I'm like, no, who are you? And everyone's like,
Yeah.
and like no one has an answer for that, because wait, they actually have to think for a second. But
Yeah.
that's everything you bring to the table. So I love that, Shereen. Now,
You're a
you
sweetheart.
mentioned your first TEDx talk. What
Yeah.
was the second one?
Yeah. So the second one was about gender equity. It was about the gender pay gap. And It's interesting because that's a subject, especially in our current political awkward climate. Don't want to talk about it too much. It's scary.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, gender equity is like a weird word, right? Or like feminism or any of
yeah.
this kind of stuff can be polarizing and make people feel very much like, oh, if you're about women's empowerment, then you're against men, right? There's that
Mm,
energy of like, it's very divisive or polarizing and all the drama. So my TEDx talk was addressing these issues in a way that would bring a society together in harmony.
nice.
So I
Yeah.
opened the talk saying I wrote a book to empower women and
Yep.
dedicated it to my daughter.
Mm.
When my son was old enough to read, he opened that book, read that dedication. I was like, what about me, mom? And I was like, So then we go through the whole talk, right? I talk about gender equity. I talk about the pay gap. I talk about my own personal struggles when I became a mom and how I wasn't valuing myself for motherhood because my framework was very much like, how much money are you making? How good do you look while making that money? How productive can you be? How selfless can you be? All these kind of societal things that are in the ethers of how women feel about themselves. And so when I was not making a lot of money and I was just nurturing a baby, like I really kind of struggled with like low self-worth or low
Yeah.
self-valuing for at that time, my contribution to society, right? And I realized later on, I was using very toxic societal lenses to view my value through. Let's just take those off, right? And that's what I wrote the book for. I was like, let me take them off, read this book. Let me help you put on some new lenses that are going to help you measure yourself in a way that is more accurate to who you are and the fact that your value is not in question. It is inherent, right? If you're a man or a woman, y'all is great. Everybody's great. Okay. Nobody needs to earn their worth. And so we go through all the things. We talk about the pay gap and how terrible it is. We then talk about how if the pay gap was solved, it would actually improve gross domestic product by 25%. Well, sorry, 20%. So it's a big deal. Like if we empower women, not only, in mind, but also in finance, it's good for society. It's good for the global economy.
Yeah.
And then the end of the talk really ends with me saying, I just really hope that this is a world where my daughter isn't disempowered for being a girl and where my son isn't threatened by her success because they know they're on the same team.
Exactly.
So,
right?
yeah.
That's how it should be. At the end of the day, that's how it should be. Everyone's an individual, regardless of whatever gender it is. But I agree with you, especially over the course of this country's history, limitations. I completely get that. I love what you said too with the toxic lens that we tend to have on. And it comes back to what we said earlier with the coaching piece. But with this regard, to look at whether it is gender, look at the society as a whole. So many people put a toxic lens on because it gets passed down from the people before them.
100%.
Right. One of the things I mentioned in my talks is we're built off of the environments we grew up in, our parents, the societies, the school systems, the teachers, and they chose what we're supposed to learn. I sit there, and if I get to go talk to a college, I always sit there and put the emphasis on them in the sense you were told to have your life figured out by junior year of high school and then choose a college to go to follow in suit. Who's not to say that it's supposed to be different? And so mine was different. I finished college and then this whole show started to run, but after life threw me to the ground. But in that is when I found the confidence, much like you did, to step on and go forward. But it was in all that pain that the toxic lens, or the lens I had on, shifted, because it had to fall off. And so if people are looking at society or gender equality or the pay gap, whatever it is, through that toxic lens, and they're only seeing one perspective that they've been told their entire life and told others their entire life, they're not going to be able to see someone else. And that, to me, regardless of what problem is in the country, is that we are unable to see the other person's perspective or the other person's side of things. And if we do, as you mentioned, that's when people come together, whether your son or your daughter or anyone else can truly empower themselves, empower others, not try and, hey, I'm better than you. You stay down there. I keep going up.
Exactly.
No need for it. No need for it.
100%. Yeah. In my coaching, I have this assessment that really measures energy levels. And there's levels 1 through 7. And level 7 is like Buddha, like, okay, not a lot are going to be.
Where all of us are at.
Exactly. Me for sure. Level 1 is like helpless, right? Yep. Level 2 is like fighting and like division and win, lose, right, wrong. And then like level 1 and 2 are kind of more, let's just call them like toxic. Like they hurt you physically. They secrete cortisol and adrenaline in your blood, which actually like erodes your tissue. Levels 3 to 7 are more positive, right? They secrete testosterone and they actually make you stronger. So to your point, most of the world is living in like 1 and 2. So there is a lot of that, like, I'm right, you're wrong, right? Like not being able to see each other's perspective. So oftentimes I think with the work you do, with the work I do, I'm really just trying to help people level up
Yeah,
energetically, right? Like, let's get
for
out of level
sure.
1. Let's get out of level 2. Let's get up to like levels 3, 4, 5. Let's actually live together in a way that is more harmonious, that is more
Mm,
healthy. And,
it's
you know,
perfect.
one
Yeah,
client at a time, Billy baby. You're doing the
100%.
God's work, okay?
100%. No, that's exactly it though. And I love that point too in the energy aspect. Like with one of my talks, I love her, regardless of who I'm talking to, is I call it the emotional guidance scale because our emotion stands for energy and motion. And so the
Mm-hmm.
majority of the world lives in a state of fear. Much like you
Yeah.
said, we stay in a 1 or 2 level states. But then as you
Yes.
start to rise up the ladder, whether you're at the top of the ladder or in the middle, it's joy and love is at the top of the ladder. So you're walking in a different energy, you're walking in a different emotion. So then you're not seeing things from the lower levels like fear or
Yeah.
depression, because regardless of what emotion we're feeling, that's the lens we look at the world through, whether it's
Yep.
toxic, fearful, whatever. But much to your point, if you climb your way up the ladder 1 through 7 or whatever, you're able to see things differently. You're seeing life differently. And
Yeah.
that is the message. As you said, one person at a time, one audience at a time. It all starts with us. Everything starts with us.
100%.
When someone can empower that, take that and move forward, life's different. Life begins to
Yeah.
change, much like you're the example of. You took a chance on yourself and said,
Yeah.
will I make, I don't know if I'll make money, but it's something I
Totally.
have to do because you felt it in here.
Yeah.
No matter what, if anyone listening right now acts on their heart, believe
Mhm.
me, it will work out okay. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
doubt about it, right?
So true.
Yeah, that's awesome.
100%.
Right. So we went over your 2 TED Talks, went over your coaching, we went over the comedy aspect. I know you touched on your book a little bit with the second TED Talk, but let's get
Yeah.
into it. Let's tell people where can they find this book, but let's even dive into it, give them some tidbits to see if they want to go purchase it for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's on Amazon. It's in all the cool places.
Mhm.
You know, it's called Revolutionary Woman.
Mhm.
Break the rules, live your purpose, and find your happy is what
Nice.
it's all about. There is 9 chapters, and they will take you through all the steps. Chapter 9 is really about women supporting one another and just being
Mm.
really collaborative. And because of that, I have a coaching program that's the Revolutionary Woman Community, right? Just kind of
Nice.
helping women be in community and kind of carry that torch, carry that energy of collaboration.
Mm.
Level 1, or not level 1, chapter 1 is called Awaken the Rebel. It's really kind of to help people awaken the rebel, right? If like we think about me and my transformation, what was I doing when I was at that job? I was living in level 1 energy. I was not fighting for myself, right? I wasn't fighting for what I deserved. I was just like being complacent and compliant and allowing myself to feel deeply disrespected in my workplace, but not fighting on my own on my behalf.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really just is 1 through 9 chapters to kind of take people through higher levels of energy. Like first being the disrupt. Second chapter is all about ancient Egypt. Women rose to become kings in many cases. They literally were like pharaohs. It's just kind of incredible and cool that actually happened in history.
Right.
Women from Greece would travel to Egypt to study medicine because they couldn't study in Greece. So they would literally go through med school there, and then they would go back to Greece and have to like disguise themselves as men to practice medicine. So ancient Egypt was just this like really incredible anomaly, you know, where for some reason, well, actually, I know the reason. I just did a talk about this at CBS, actually, for their MENA CRG, Middle Eastern and North African group. They wanted a speaker to come in for the month of April and talk about this kind of stuff because it was Arab American Heritage Month. I'm obviously Egyptian, so I'm Middle Eastern and North African. What? So I did this talk because it's the second TEDx talk. But so the first TEDx talk is 13 minutes, but my first keynote speech is like a full keynote based on the same concept. And same. Second TEDx talk is like 9 minutes, but my second keynote speech is based on the same concept, but of course longer. And basically it's about ancient Egyptian society and how they really did live in harmony with one another. And the reason is because their religion edified women. There was like a god and a goddess who would work in harmony and collaboration in their religion. And so it was like very normal for them to see women as like leaders or deities or whatever. And so there was no, in their religious paradigm, there was no degradation of women or like Eve being the one who ate the apple. And so she was this naughty sinner, right? Like we have a lot of that going on with our, you know, whatever it's called, religion. So
Right.
yeah, so just based on their religion, they were just like, yeah, respect to men, to women, it's all great. We work together. It was like no trouble.
Yeah.
It's great. So
Exactly. See, I
yeah.
love that. Like personally, I love that in the sense that I study the ancient Egyptian aspect just as much, and
Oh, fun.
probably not as much as you, but I study and learn more so about how they lived back then. And so that
Fun.
concept of everyone was essentially treated equal.
Yeah.
And then, there is a time where Egypt fell, and that was caused by a lot of different events, not
Yep.
not even societal events. That was caused by, like, I think, catastrophic events. But in that, it shows more so every single what human, whether man, woman, whatever it is, you're cherished for what you bring to the table as an individual. So
Exactly.
yes, like body aspect too, like women were cherished because they're able to have children and everything like
Yeah.
that, but they were looked at as a greater being because they were able to do that. So in that, there was a
Mm-hmm.
great level of respect. And so to
Yeah.
carry that forward into where their civilization grew, but then you go along the lines and then something shifted, and then we get the different cultures of the world. But there
Yeah.
still are other civilizations in the world where the equality is there. And,
Right.
I can only speak for what I know in this country,
Yeah.
it's growing. I'll say that. There's battles, it's growing. But I do agree with you in that sense where when we can look back at the history, we learn that it was very different than what we were told. And when
Mm-hmm.
we see how different it is,
Exactly.
we can learn from it and grow now and move forward in that
Exactly.
area because it's going to come back. History repeats itself for that matter.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that little tip on Egypt because I think that's so cool. But in your talks, in your book, and everything, I want people listening right now to go check out the link for that book is going to be in the YouTube description. People go grab it and go check it out. But it sounds like there's a lot that people can grab from it in those 9 chapters.
Yeah.
And right, is there a key point to you as the author? Like you loved writing this key point that really stuck. I can't wait for so and so to read this or whatever it is.
Well, at the end of every chapter, there is coaching questions. I think,
Oh,
in
cool.
my mind, in my heart, more than anything, I am a coach. I just want to help you expand your consciousness,
Right.
baby. So at the end of every chapter, there is like life work questions,
Nice.
and so that's there for you to journal on. And to me, I'm like, these are the questions I would be asking you if I was coaching you. I would be asking you, what would it look like for you to break the rules right now? When you are compliant and complacent, who are you really trying to please? Like, yeah, all these and chapter 2 being about the Egyptian kings. I'm like, if you operated in your life like you were the king of your life, like what would you do differently? Right. So I'm sort of like throughout the book trying to give people opportunities to reflect and actually have moments with themselves where
Nice.
they can self-coach. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
like my little signature thing.
Yeah, that's perfect though. And I find those are the best books because, I sit there and I think I'm biased in the sense because the work that I get to do. But if I go to a Barnes and Noble or a bookstore, whatever it is, I just gravitate to the self-help book, the transformation books, what can I learn? And I sit there and I'll talk to friends that they love reading fiction books or mystery books, and to each their own. But I sit there and I'm like, I want to go learn something, if I'm going to dedicate my time, it sounds like your book for people listening right now. If there's someone listening, whether man or woman, as much as it is called Revelation, this brings a lot of aspects I think everyone needs to learn. To have those questions in the book allows you to use those 9 chapters as something that is your starting point. Much like the seminar was for Shereen in the sense where she took a step for herself. You can go take a step for yourself, grab this book, and then start your own journey into what you want to do and follow in your heart. As she mentioned, you rise up in consciousness. You start to act on your intuition, act on your heart. This could be a starting point. And that's where Shereen gets to guide you and lead the way. But at the same time, you never know. That could open up so many doors for you, for yourself, or to connect with Shereen too. So, Shereen, I think your work is absolutely incredible, whether it is coaching, speaking, writing. I got to ask now, since you mentioned the joke about your son, is there another book coming that will be dedicated to him?
There should be, right?
There you go.
Yeah, there's definitely more books in the works. There's more books in the works. And yeah, there is one coming for my son, that sweet pea. Yeah.
That's awesome. So funny. No, I love it, Shereen. I appreciate the time today. And I really think that you bring so much to the table. I feel like you and I could talk on some deeper topics just as much. So I'd love to have you back on here for sure.
Awesome.
But as we start to close this whole thing out right now, tell them, where can they find you? We mentioned that Amazon has the book, but what about your website? What about your social media? Where can we look for you?
My website is ShereenThor.com, SHEREEN as in Nancy, and then Thor, like the Lord of thunder and lightning,
Right.
So yeah, ShereenThor.com. I'm Shereen Thor on Instagram and LinkedIn. I probably spend the most time on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit of a nerd where I try not to be on social media too much because obviously I'm into the science of well-being and health and all the things. So I don't have social media apps on my phone.
Good for you. Yeah.
But I do, if I want to go on a computer and go to LinkedIn or go to Instagram, I can. So yeah,
Nice.
hit me up.
That's awesome, right? No, like seriously, everyone, you're about to see those links roll in the credits of this video, but also go to the YouTube description. You can click right on them and go check her out. You can go find her LinkedIn. You can find her website. You can find the book. It's all right there for you. But last question, Shereen, is there a lasting message you want to leave with people before we close this whole thing out?
I mean, can I just be cheesy and say, follow your heart?
Period. That's all you need.
That's it.
No, that's true. But that's what your story has been. You literally acted on your heart and it opened every door for you. So follow your heart. As as simple or cliche as it might be, it's literally the most powerful statement you could say. It really is.
Billy, I'm a fan. You're good.
Right back at you, Shereen. That's why we're here, right? No, seriously. But no, you really bring everything to the table, Shereen. So it's been great connecting you now. I seriously want to have you on again where we can dive into deeper topics, whether it could be the intuition aspect or consciousness or helping people guide those levels. I think you and I can really expand on that. But I appreciate your time today, and it's been an absolute blast. Everyone, I thank you for tuning in and watching this video. Please like this message on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up on below. If at any moment someone popped in your mind while we were talking about whether it is the coaching, the speaking, maybe it was the book for that matter, maybe it's a key point that just stuck out to you. To me, that is a clear-cut sign that person needs to hear this video and hear that message to help them. Not to share Shereen, not to share Billy, but to help someone else. That's the goal of our channel. Please lend a hand and share it to them. And please subscribe to Once a Week if you have not already. That number is going up every single week. Shereen, I believe we just passed 27,000. So that means that you're here. You're talking to a lot of audience right now, which is huge, right? But no, everyone, please subscribe if you have not already. It's been a blast. And if you're in need of a coach who can help in any of the areas discussed today, go to Shereen's website. You can go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a call with either of us, and we're going to help you because we want to help you, and we're going to be right there. But I thank you guys for tuning in. Shereen, lastly, thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll see you guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Boo signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even have a deal. Yeah, I battle through these bars, yeah, I always bunk a hill. I know that any city I go in, that I be flyer than Logan, and I be flying high. I want this shit pumping here all the way to Shanghai. And my name's not Joe, but I'm not your average guy. I be killing it, east side rapping cause I'm writing where I'm from. And I know for hella sure that I'm right with what I done. In a minute I'ma win it, chilling with all these women. It's a dream I've been chasing and I'm never gonna pace it. This is something really got lost in. Everybody said no and now they all want